The impact of man's activities on the global climate is now widely acknowledged.
And you have to go with the weight of scientific opinion ultimately, and that weight is that the climate is changing. Part of the cause of that is carbon footprint, and we have to therefore achieve some clarity over what the impact of what you do on a daily basis is.
In February 2007, a UN panel on climate change reported that most of the increase in global average temperatures is caused by human activity. Jonathan Steele is an independent analyst and chief executive at the Bathwick Group. Steve Bowden is IBM's chief technical officer for green computing, and David Young leads IBM's Big Green project.
I see today more people that I speak to being interested in the whole green agenda. And I think what that means is that over the next 2 to 3 years we'll see a huge uptick in the amount of work that we are doing to help people to identify and understand the issue. We're into the analyst and marketing cycle, and I think we're at the beginnings of what the market is actually going to do, what customers are actually going to do about this issue.
The combination of rising fuel costs and increasing regulatory levels on CO2 output makes it economically imperative for businesses to increase their efficiency and reduce their emissions.
Customers today are seeing significant rises in their energy bill. Current assessments show that 40% of the total commercial energy bill for non-manufacturing environments are actually used for running IT today.
The cost of providing power in a data center will surpass the cost of buying hardware. And more in the key cities around the globe, we're finding it more and more difficult to get the power into the data centers that we need. Also, with the explosion in the amount of distributed servers out in data centers, people are having to invest more and more money building more data center space. It's known as the $50 million server. You get to a point where one extra server in the data center, you have to buy or build out a complete new data center. It's just not economic.
So as a result, what we're seeing is a significant rise in the cost of energy to run your IT estate. There are really a number of key drivers in the marketplace today as to why customers are looking at becoming greener and positioning their businesses in such a way. The first of those is around regulation. In March of this year, we've already seen that the government has announced its strategy of driving down carbon dioxide output in the whole of industry in the UK.
As part of its goal to cut a massive 80% of power usage in data centers, IBM has announced Project Big Green.
Project Big Green is real today.
We took just under 4,000 servers and are in the process of consolidating that down to just over 30 mainframe systems, System Z. In real terms, we're going to see an 80% saving in the terms of the amount of energy we're going to use to run those systems.
One of the key reasons that we're doing this project and why we're investing so much money in doing it is that we are the largest commercial IT provider in the world. And as such, we have over 8 million square feet of data centers, which obviously consume a massive amount of power. That means that unless we carried out this project and carried out these sort of consolidations, we would actually double not only our floor space, which and the environmental impact by building new data centers, but we'd also double the amount of power. So by carrying out these sort of consolidations, we expect to save about 5 billion kilowatts of power a year. And that's about the equivalent of a city of Paris uses in 1 year.
IBM's working at every single level on how to produce more efficient chips, how to produce more efficient materials for use in chips and so on, all the way through to how to redesign data centers and redesign infrastructures to be more power efficient.
We've always been a corporate environment where we've been thinking of the environmental issues and been a socially responsible corporation. So this is not something which we just joined as part of a green bandwagon. This has been part of the ethos of IBM for many years.
One of IBM's big advantages over many other companies in the marketplace is the fact that it does have the wide view. It has the ability to look at how technology is applied across a company or any organization, all the way from business process level right the way through to the technology that's actually used, and there are very few companies that can actually do that.
there are a number of offerings that are available for our business partners to use with the customers. Those include the Zodiac Environmental Study, the Space Storage Study, the ability to do a data center efficiency study which looks at the air conditioning and the power supply. We have offerings which enable customers to understand where they're spending energy on Microsoft licenses today and whether or not they can consolidate those. We have the ability to work with customers to understand how much they're actually using to run their PC estate today. With that, we could then enable an option which gave the customer a chance to use virtual client technology and significantly reduce the energy at the desktop, typically from 200 watts per desktop down to just 15 for a virtual client.
I think there's a huge opportunity in green IT, from the more obvious things like consolidation of servers in data centers and even in relatively smaller companies, right the way through to full range consulting across what companies can do to get their arms around this issue. It is an important issue, not just from a cost point of view, but from as we move forward from a general environmental and CSR point of view.
This is an important issue for our business partners because it's an opportunity for them to engage with their customers and help them understand how they can become more efficient in their use of energy and address their customers' concerns about becoming greener. That would be the first step for them to understand exactly what savings they could make to their ongoing cost base and significant savings they can make to their carbon footprint.
IBM invests heavily in delivering continual advances in power performance for each new generation of servers and storage, enabling clients to run the same workload at lower financial and environmental cost. One of the technologies that makes this possible is virtualization.
What we can do is sweep the floor of a large number of smaller servers and put it all onto one single machine, which gives us a massive saving both in power and in data center space. The fact that we can virtualize Linux using ZVM and provide a large number of servers within a box obviously allows us to do this much faster than if we had to port over to ZOS. But some of the workloads we're moving will run under ZOS because we need the quality of service that only ZOS can deliver.
By virtualizing the 3,900 servers in these locations onto just 30 mainframes, IBM will cut not only the total number of processors, but the number of power supplies, network cards, fans, and other components to produce a substantial saving in energy consumption. The virtualization of the network using hypersockets will eliminate thousands of meters of cabling and all of the costs associated with maintaining these physical network connections.
I think IBM is certainly one of the companies that can provide that leadership and is very well qualified to do so, not just in simple green IT sense, but across the green board, if you like.
What we announced with Project Big Green was a 5-step plan that our business partners and our customers can use as the stepping stones to achieving a greener IT infrastructure. If we look at the way in which IBM's totality of offerings compares to other vendors, what we see here is there are actually many different ways in which you can reduce your carbon footprint and reduce your costs. The key benefits come from actually using a combination of those in the most effective way possible. And what we don't do is look at technologies like carbon offsetting, which are basically additional costs to your business to provide that level of CO2 reduction in the atmosphere. This way we can actually ensure you're reducing your ongoing costs and seeing incremental business benefit as well as becoming greener as a business.
The key is action. Individuals, businesses, and governments taking immediate steps to limit emissions and reduce their carbon footprint.
It's not something that you want to really be doing at the last minute. Like a lot of these things, you need to be planning well in advance, really understanding the practical steps that you can take to make a difference now. Because as you go through, right the way from ground level upwards on what it's going to take to implement the best practice in green IT, you'll find these things will take a while. They're not something you can do overnight. So the time to start is now.
You don't need to be afraid of going green. Green is not just a way of positioning your company to save the planet. What you actually do with going green and using the right technologies is save your business a significant amount of money and make it much more effective at doing what it does.